Hey guys, it's Ty and welcome back to my channel. So today we are back with another Which One is Better. Now I have not filmed one of these in quite a while, but typically with these videos, what I'll do is I'll either read a couple of books from the same author or I will choose books that have a really similar plot line and I'll basically tell you guys which one I thought was better. Now, initially I was not planning on filming one of these videos. However, I was planning on reading Alice Feeney's newest release for this year, My Husband's Wife. This has been really hyped here in the book community, so I was really excited to read it. But when I was searching the name of this book, because I was trying to look for an audiobook, I found out that there are several books with the same title. Now, all three of these books are thrillers, and I thought this would be a great time to tell you guys which one I thought was better. However, this did not go in the direction that I thought it was going to go. I thought that I was going to enjoy these books a lot more than I did, and I unfortunately do not have anything above 3 stars. So what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna go ahead, talk about each of these books. I'm gonna start off from my lowest rated and work my way up to my highest rated. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. So the first one that we're gonna start with, My Husband's Wife. This is the one by Carla Kovach. So in this one, we're following our main character, Eva. And prior to the story starting, Eva lost her husband in like a tragic accident. And so she is still grieving his death. But she is in a new relationship. This guy is helping her raise her son. And so they decide that they want to move somewhere new and start over. And she's kind of really excited about it. But she is a wedding planner, and one of her first couples that she meets, it is Madison and Theo. However, Eva gets the shock of her life when she sees that Theo looks exactly like her dead husband, and the story just kind of takes off from there. Now, I honestly struggle to get through this one. I only finished it for the sake of this video. I did not want to have any DNFs, so I really had to push myself to finish this one. I was not really connected to any of the characters. So the first half of the story, we are following our main character, Eva. And then about halfway through, we flip and we start following Madison, which is the woman that's a part of this couple that she's trying to help plan the wedding of. And I really liked how the author told the story and how we kind of went back to Madison's POV and we kind of seen the same scenes that we already seen with Eva, but through Madison's eyes. And honestly, I didn't mind that. So I was really excited when we did the POV shift. And I thought that the story was gonna start to pick up the pace a little bit because this is a slower paced read, but unfortunately it did not. I didn't necessarily find anything really memorable about the story overall. And I feel like the last third of the story, the author started throwing a lot of stuff at us and the pacing started to pick up a little bit, but because it took so long for us to finally get some really good reveals and some really good information, it's like I no longer cared about it. And so those reveals didn't really hit me the way that I think the author was probably intending, and it literally just did nothing for me. So even though I was really sold on the premise for this one, I unfortunately had to give this one 2 stars, and this is the one that I liked the least out of the 3 books I'm going to talk about. Now, this next one that I'm going to talk about is probably going to be a shock to you guys because this is the one that initially kicked off this video, and I am not a fan. That is going to be My Husband's Wife by Alice Feeney. In this one, we start off and we follow this woman, Eden, and Eden goes on a run. And that's something that she does all the time. She goes on a run, but when she comes back to the house, another woman answers the door. And her husband also comes to the door. And her husband is adamant that this woman that just answered the door is his wife. And obviously that sends Eden spiraling. I'm gonna leave that there. I do think that this is a story that you should not really know a lot going in. But I sadly also gave this one 2 stars. And I know that it's going to be a shock to everybody because everybody has really been loving this book. But for some reason, it just did not connect with me in the way that I thought it was going to. So in the beginning of the story, the premise sounded fantastic. I was hooked the first few chapters of the story. But then I started to get a little lost and confused the longer this story went on. Now, Alice Feeney does a really good job with like short chapters and leaving you on these like little cliffhangers at the end of each chapter that will entice you to want to keep reading her stories. However, in this one, I feel like these little cliffhangers and reveals that we were getting at the end of the chapter was just leaving me more confused, and not confused in a way where I want to keep going to try to figure out why I'm so confused, but it left me in a confused state to where I just didn't even want to pick it up. It kind of left me like exhausted. And I feel like we were getting so much information, and I'm trying to be really vague here, but there's a certain point in this book where we talk a lot about a certain character's job, and I kept thinking that that was going to mean something at a certain point, and it did not. And it just left me kind of frustrated that we spent so much time on something that ultimately just did not matter. And then once you finally figure out what's going on, well, once that's told to you, it just did not make any sense to me, because there is just no way that that would have happened the way that they are trying to make me think that this happened. It just kind of felt unbelievable. Now, this is a really unpopular opinion because everybody has really been enjoying this one, but this one just, I did not like it. And I'm so sad that I didn't like it because I was not a fan of Alice Feeney's books the last year. I think it was called like The Beautiful Ugly. That one did not work for me either. And I'm starting to think that this author is like a hit or miss for me. Some of her books I have really enjoyed, and these last few books I have not. I just think for me, this was doing too much. And that says a lot coming from me because I love a plot that's doing too much. But this one was just doing it too much, and it left me confused and lost, and ultimately I just felt like everything just felt a little unbelievable. But those are just my opinions. So I unfortunately also had to give this one 2 stars. The last one that we have is another My Husband's Wife. This one is by Anya Mora. So in this, we're following this woman, and she gets the devastating news that her husband, Ledger, has died in a trucking accident. And obviously this just leaves her devastated. Her world is turned upside down. She doesn't know what she's going to do financially. She's also raising some small children. I want to say she has twins. And so she just doesn't know what to do. And then one day she gets this knock on the door from this woman who claims that her dead husband is actually her husband, whose real name is Henry. And then the story just takes off from there. Now, this book, compared to the last 2 books, I will say I was more entertained by this one. This one also had really short chapters. There were things that were being revealed at the end of these chapters that kept me intrigued. But at the end of the day, I kind of felt like this was your typical thriller. It was very predictable by the end of it. There were a couple of things in here that I was not expecting, but for the most part, I called every single thing that happened. I also just kind of felt like the ending wrapped up a little too nicely. I kind of feel like in my mystery thrillers, I don't need everything to necessarily be resolved. And that's kind of what happened in this one, which took away my enjoyment just slightly. But I did have a better time with this one than I did with the other 2. Hence, I was able to give this one 3 stars. Not a favorite, not one that I'm raving about. Out of the other 2 that I read, I would definitely say I would recommend these over those other 2. But yeah, I settled on 3 stars for this one. So those are my thoughts on the 3 books that I read with the title My Husband's Wife. If you have read any of these books, please let me know your thoughts down below. Now, normally I would say that I hope that I have convinced you guys to pick these books and try them for yourself. I don't really think that's the vibe that I gave off today. But if you are interested in picking any of these up, please let me know that down below as well. So I do have a playlist of all of my other videos where I have done which one is better. So I will have that link down below in case you guys want to check out those other videos. But that is all that I have for you guys, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.